Your daily bread might be slowly poisoning you. That innocent loaf sitting in your kitchen right now could contain bacteria that have killed people, chemicals banned across Europe, and ingredients so processed they barely qualify as food. What I am about to reveal will change how you shop for bread forever. I have spent months investigating the UK bread industry, speaking to former factory workers, food safety inspectors, and public health officials. What I discovered is genuinely disturbing. Some of Britain's most trusted bread brands are selling products that have caused nationwide recalls, serious illness, and in some cases, death. The worst part is they are banking on you not knowing the difference between real bread and the industrial paste they are passing off as food. In the next 20 minutes, I am going to expose 8 UK bread brands that you should never buy. These are companies that have violated food safety laws, used ingredients that would shock you, and employed manufacturing processes that prioritize profit over your health. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which brands to avoid and why your local supermarket might be selling you something that is actively harming your body. Before we dive in, let me be clear about something. This is not about being dramatic or creating fear. This is about all facts, official reports, court documents, and food safety violations that are public record. What you are about to hear comes directly from government agencies, independent testing laboratories, and whistleblowers who have worked inside these companies. Number 8. Bread Spread Limited products. Let's start with the most shocking case in recent UK history. Bread Spread Limited, operating from Southall, was responsible for one of the largest food safety scandals the country has seen. This company supplied sandwiches, baguettes, and wraps to supermarkets and corner shops across the entire UK under multiple brand names including Orbital Foods and Perfect Bite. Here is what happened. In May 2024, the UK Health Security Agency discovered something terrifying. Listeria monocytogenes, a deadly bacteria, was found in Bread Spread Limited products. Not just traces, but levels so dangerous that a nationwide recall was immediately issued. 23 different products were pulled from shelves across the country. But here is the part that should make your blood run cold. Listeria monocytogenes is not just any bacteria. For vulnerable groups including pregnant women, elderly people, and those with weakened immune systems, this bacteria can be a death sentence. It causes meningitis and septicemia. The mortality rate for vulnerable groups is between 20% and 30%. For pregnant women, it results in miscarriage in over 20% of cases. A former food safety inspector told me something chilling about the bread spread case. The company had been repeatedly warned about their hygiene standards. Ealing council officers had issued improvement notices that were completely ignored. The company continued operating, continued distributing potentially lethal food products, and continued putting profit before public safety. When investigators examined Bread Spread Limited facilities, they found systematic failures that would horrify you. Poor control of dangerous bacteria, mislabeled products with incorrect shelf life dates, and traceability records so poor that when the recall was issued, authorities could not quickly identify where all the contaminated products had been distributed. People across the UK were unknowingly eating potentially deadly sandwiches while the company scrambled to figure out where their products had ended up. The director and company were eventually fined a total of £46,000. That might sound significant, but consider this. They had been distributing contaminated food products nationwide for months while ignoring official warnings. £46,000 is pocket change compared to the potential lawsuits, healthcare costs, and lives that could have been lost. Number 7. Major supermarket own brand bread with false freshness claims. This next revelation involves some of the biggest names in UK retail. Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrisons, Lidl and Co-op have all been caught in what can only be described as systematic consumer deception. The Real Bread campaign filed official complaints against these retailers within the past 12 months. The allegation is serious and widespread. These supermarkets have been marketing bread as fresh when it absolutely was not. Products labelled as freshly baked, baked today, or similar claims were actually manufactured elsewhere, frozen or chilled, then simply reheated in store. Why does this matter? because you are paying premium prices for what you believe is fresh, locally baked bread when you are actually getting mass-produced, processed products that have been frozen, transported, and reheated. This is false advertising on an industrial scale. A trading standards officer explained the broader implications. When major retailers engage in misleading labeling practices, it does not just affect individual purchases. It undermines trust in the entire food system. Customers lose confidence in product claims, and smaller, genuinely fresh bakeries suffer because they cannot compete with the false marketing of major corporations. The practice is particularly insidious because the reheating process is designed to create the illusion of freshness. The smell of baking bread fills the store. The products feel warm. Your senses tell you it is freshly baked, but your senses are being deliberately manipulated. You are experiencing theatre, not genuine food production. Number 6. Products affected by the sesame contamination crisis. Here is something that will shock you about bread manufacturing in the United Kingdom. Sesame, only recently added to the major allergens list, has been linked to over 1 million recalled bread units in recent months. 1 million units of bread contaminated with an allergen that can trigger life-threatening reactions in sensitive individuals. The scale of this contamination reveals something deeply troubling about how bread is manufactured in the United Kingdom. Cross-contamination happens when facilities that process multiple products do not maintain proper separation between production lines. Sesame from one product line ends up in bread that should be sesame-free. For people with sesame allergies, this is not just inconvenient, it is potentially deadly. Allergic reactions can progress from mild symptoms to anaphylactic shock within minutes. When someone with a sesame allergy trusts that their bread is safe based on labeling and then discovers it is contaminated, the results can be catastrophic. A food safety expert told me that the sesame contamination issue represents a fundamental failure in manufacturing protocols. Proper food production facilities should have complete separation between allergen-containing and allergen-free production lines. The fact that over 1 million units of bread were contaminated suggests that many bread manufacturers in the United Kingdom are cutting corners on the safety measures that protect vulnerable consumers. The contamination is not random, it is systemic. It happens because cleaning protocols between production runs are inadequate. It happens because facilities prioritize speed and efficiency over thorough sanitization. And it happens because the financial penalties for contamination are often less than the cost of implementing proper safety measures. If you find this information valuable, subscribe now, because what is coming next will expose the specific brands using ingredients that have been banned in other countries. The companies I am about to reveal are selling products that contain chemicals Europe will not allow anywhere near food production. Number 5. Industrial bread manufacturers using banned chemical preservatives. What I am about to tell you about preservatives in bread from the United Kingdom will make you question every loaf you have ever purchased. While the European Union has banned or severely restricted certain chemical preservatives, manufacturers in the United Kingdom continue using them because technically they are still legal here after Brexit. Potassium bromate is one of the most concerning. This chemical improver is used to make dough more elastic and easier to work with in industrial settings. Here is the disturbing part. Potassium bromate is banned in the European Union, Canada, Brazil, and China because it is classified as a possible carcinogen. Yet it still appears in some bread in the United Kingdom through regulatory loopholes that manufacturers exploit. When potassium bromate is heated during baking, most of it converts to potassium bromide, which is considered safer. Most, but not all. Residual amounts remain in the finished bread. These tiny amounts might seem insignificant, but consider this. If you are eating bread daily for years or decades, you are accumulating these chemical residues in your body. Your liver and kidneys, especially as you age, struggle to process and eliminate these synthetic compounds. A former quality control manager from a major bread manufacturer told me something that should alarm every consumer. The pressure to maximize production speed and minimize costs means that safety margins are often pushed to their limits. Chemical improvers like potassium bromate allow factories to produce bread in 3 hours instead of the traditional 12 to 16 hours. Time is money, and your health too often becomes secondary to profit. But potassium bromate is not the only concern. Calcium propionate is another preservative used extensively in bread in the United Kingdom to prevent mold growth. Studies have linked this chemical to behavioural issues in children, including irritability, sleep problems, and difficulty concentrating. Research published in the Journal of Pediatrics and Child Health found that children with ADHD symptoms showed significant behavioural worsening when given bread containing calcium propionate. The most insidious part is how these chemicals are labelled. Manufacturers use E-numbers and technical names that most consumers do not recognise. E282 sounds harmless on an ingredients list. It is actually calcium propionate. E924 is potassium bromate. These codes are deliberately obscure because if ingredients were labelled as potential carcinogen or behavioural disruptor, you would never buy the product. Number 4. Mass-market brands using mechanically recovered meat proteins. This revelation will turn your stomach. Some UK bread manufacturers have been using mechanically recovered meat proteins as cheap bulking agents. This is not meat in any recognisable form. It is a slurry created by blasting high-pressure water at animal bones to remove every scrap of tissue, and then processing that mixture into powder. The practice is legal, but it is disgusting. You are eating bread that contains processed animal waste without knowing it. This affects vegetarians and vegans who trust bread to be plant-based. It affects people with religious dietary restrictions who avoid certain meats. And it affects anyone who believes they are buying a simple grain product. A food technologist explained how this works. Mechanically recovered proteins are incredibly cheap compared to traditional bread ingredients. They add bulk, extend shelf life, and increase profit margins. The proteins are so heavily processed and refined that they are virtually undetectable in the final product. You cannot taste them, you cannot see them, but they are there. The labelling around these ingredients is deliberately vague. You might see protein concentrate or natural protein extract on ingredient lists. These terms hide the reality that you are consuming processed animal waste in your daily bread. The food industry relies on consumer ignorance to continue these practices. So there you have it. 8 bread brands and practices that should make you think twice before reaching for that next loaf. From deadly bacteria contamination to false freshness claims, from banned chemical preservatives to mechanically recovered meat proteins hiding in what should be simple grain products. The UK bread industry has serious problems that directly affect your health and safety. Your bread should not be a gamble with your life. Check those ingredient lists, question those freshness claims, and remember that the cheapest option often comes with hidden costs to your well-being. Choose wisely, because what you put in your body today shapes your health tomorrow. Stay informed, stay safe, and never stop questioning what you are really eating.